Hello and welcome to our mini painting workshop. Today we're going to be focusing a little bit more on adding rust to our model that we have been painting with the NMM iron. If you haven't checked that one out and you want to see how I approached painting all of this non-metallic metal here, then go and check that video out. I'll leave a little cue card up there that you can just click on and you can go and check that video out. But before we get started with doing the rust colors, you can see with this particular model, we've also got some of these little leather straps and things. So I'm just going to go and paint those ones first. To do those, I'm just going to be using Vallejo's Model Color Leather Brown. I find this one quite good for leather, surprisingly. So I'm just going to pop some of that down there. Okay, and you'll see like what we're aiming for. This is a model that I've actually finished, and you'll see here we've got like the leather here, and it's kind of like a faded leather that we're going for. So initially we're going to be starting off with that leather brown. All right, and all you need to do is you just take your leather brown and you're going to just cover all of the leather straps. Here we go. Okay, so I've just gone in and I painted in that leather brown. It already looks quite nice as it is. It's a nice contrast to the cooler iron that we have painted so far. But we're not finished with it yet. We will highlight it a little. Now the parts that I've done is this kind of like this Roman style kind of like leather skirt thing that I don't know the actual term for it, what it is, but it's that thing that the Romans used to wear. I've also put the straps that hold the shield on also as leather, and also where the cuirass is kind of held together, there's like a couple of little leather straps just in there and in there. That's all that I've really added on to the model. So what we're going to do is I've got this white that's still on my palette here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a much lighter brown using the white that we've got and this the brown. I'm just going to use that for my highlight. A very, very simple one. We're only going for a very simple kind of tabletop standard. So I'm just going to put that in where I feel the light is going to reflect. Unlike NMM, we're not going for a heavy contrast, otherwise it's going to look too shiny for a fabric. So here, the subtle touches is better for cloth. Texture of cloth and things is a little different from metallics, so you want to go a little bit more subtle in the change, but a small change is still very nice to read on a model, even at this nice tabletop standard. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and carry on that. I might go up just another step as well, just kind of lighten them up a bit more. We'll just go over everything first. Okay, yeah, so I think I will go up just another step, but again, make the highlights a little bit smaller than what I was doing before. So we'll just mix in that. Again, a good reason to have a wet palette is that you can do a lot of blending with your colors, so you don't need lots and lots of paints. We're doing this with just 2 or 3 paints at a time to get all the effects that we need. Keeps it very, very simple, keeps the amount of decision making that you need to make very, very small, and allows you just to get on with doing some painting rather than thinking about, oh, which paint do I need? So I do recommend either making or buying a wet palette and playing with fewer colors but mixing a lot of the time, so that you're learning a little bit of very simple color theory as well through experience. I can't recommend that enough. Okay, there we go. It's just a simple step, literally 3 layers, going from a dark brown to a little bit of a lighter brown, using the white to just lighten that brown. So it's all just 2 colors really, but it kind of gives a nice effect for the leather on this particular model, and it's very easy to do. So now let's get on with actually looking at how we approach doing the rust. Now I'm going to use 2 colors again just for doing the rust, and what we're going to be using is, rather than the leather brown, we're going to change up the brown a little bit. We're going to be using burnt umber. you have a look at the leather brown has a little bit more of a reddish look to it. The burnt umber has a little bit more of a kind of an orangey, greeny kind of look there. I quite like this for doing rust. So we're going to be using the burnt umber, and the other thing I'm going to be using is orange red. We're just going to be using these two paints here, but what we need to do is, what's very important is that we don't do it too heavy on the model. If we do it too heavy on the model, it's really going to show up, and we want it to be quite subtle. So what's going to be important now is actually thinning our paints right down. So it's not going to be like a full glaze or anything, but we're definitely going to be thinning the paint so it's not going on too thick. So I'm just going to put down just a little bit of the paint there. And what I sometimes like to do is, if I need to thin it, I'll just take some water from the wet palette itself. That way I'm not oversaturating my brush. It's just getting a little bit from the sponge. And then I can take a dab and I'll just spread that out, and you'll see it's thinning quite a bit there on the extremes as it draws moisture from my brush. If I draw it on my hand, you can see it's quite transparent. It's still applying, but it's a bit transparent, and that's what you want to do. So let's start with the shield, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to just choose some random spots, and we're just going to be placing this out. I can just kind of dab it in places. I'm going to have some rust building up around there, maybe on the inside of that curve there, perhaps on just around those little corners, this mottled area. Definitely these mottled areas are good for a lot of the rust building up. Maybe there's some building up there. Already it kind of looks kind of cool, right? It's a very simple approach. I'm just going to kind of get the inside there and a little bit onto there. Again, I'm just kind of choosing some random spots for it. The more kind of random it is, the better. If you follow too much of a pattern, it's not going to look very natural. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I'm going to go and get some more on my brush. Make sure to wick it, check the transparency, and then let's try and apply it elsewhere. Okay, let's go ahead and do those. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the whole body with the burnt umber. Okay, so we've now got some rusted elements all over the body using just the burnt umber. And that's fine as it is if we wanted to just keep it there. But I kind of like the rust to shine out a little bit more, make it a little bit more prominent. To do that, we're going to be adding on the orange red. I got model color orange red. Again, you can find equivalents with any hobby, miniature hobby acrylics. But this one is quite a nice orange. Oranges tend to have a pretty poor coverage. This Vallejo one is not bad, but we don't need to worry about it having too much coverage. We're going to mix it about 50-50 with the burnt umber. And then again, I'm just going to take a touch of the water there. I'm going to mix that in so that it is thinned. We're going to just, again, test it against our hand. Like that, it's pretty translucent. That's good. Now, let's start with a shield. And we'll just, again, in those rusted areas, now add a little bit of stronger rust. Yeah, like that. Just brings it out just a little bit more. You want to be careful not to do it too much. This is now going to be subtler and subtler highlights of the rust. You want us to be able to see that brown underneath to show where the rust is building up, getting stronger and thicker as it builds up. There we go. Look at that. That's a nice looking shield there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do it for the rest of the body. I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so now we've done a pass with the burnt umber and red orange mix. Finally, we're going to be going in with an orange red. Now, because I did that one quite subtly, I didn't actually have to go back to my wet palette at all. Actually, literally just one time collecting up the paint in my brush and wicking it, I was able to do the whole model. So it's a very quick technique. Very fast, but it gives it a nice finish to the model. So this time we're going to go with a pure orange red. Now be very careful with this because it's quite intense. Again, we're just going to water that right down. It's very translucent. So again, I'm gonna wick it. I check. Also make sure there's not too much on our brush because we only want to be putting on a little bit at a time. So let's again go from the shield and have a look. Again, in those same areas, this time really subtly give it that final little push where you want it. I'm kind of going into some of the grooves to show like, okay, it's really building in those kind of hard to reach spots where it's really mottled on the metal. That's where the rust has been eating away at the shield as well. It kind of almost tells a story now, like how old this giant is. All right, I'm going to continue with these. Just adding just a teeny bit on all of the rusted portions where I really want to make it highlighted. Okay, and there we have it. The model is all done now with some rusted effects on the model. Again, just using basic miniature hobby paints that all of you should have access to. So for now, no special use of any other kind of materials or textures or anything like that. We just kind of keep it very, very simple. We've approached this whole thing so far with about 6 paints total to get all of this effect, including the NMM iron and the rust and the leather. And that's all you really need to try and get these effects. And it's mostly about mixing your paints a little bit to get those transitions in. And once you start building up with those, you can get a really, really nice tabletop standard with some pretty cool looking reflections and highlights and things. And so already I'm very happy with where this model is. Now, if you're enjoying the series, please give a like, please consider subscribing, and you can leave a comment down below as well as to how you approach your techniques, or if there's any kind of tutorials that you would like in the future. This series isn't finished yet. We haven't done it quite all. If you notice on this model here, we've got the glowing eyes. So we've got this blue kind of OSL where there's light shining. Now, what's special about this character is he's got this this weapon here with this lightning coming out. So we're going to have a look at how we're going to paint this types of lightning along with those eyes with a teeny bit of very simple OSL, and see if we can make this model really stand out a little bit more. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining, and I hope you have a lovely day and good luck with all your painting. Goodbye.